It is always strange to see people with little or no idea about India or Hinduism try to conjure up theories on how India works via their assumptions. Pakistani's writer Shaan Khan kicked off a minor storm through her article in the Daily Beast titled "What's Really Behind India's Rape Crisis?" To be clear, there's no denying the fact that Indian women face real and horrific dangers on a daily basis, and Indian attitudes to women are among the worst in the world. Our sex ratio between men and women, the result of centuries of female infanticide, should send chills through any reader. However, the main question here is not whether India has a rape crisis, it does, but rather why it has a rape crisis. And this is where Shaan Khan's incredibly misguided article goes off the rails. The article says there is a total and complete disrespect for women in Indian religious scriptures. The Mahabharata, Book 13, Section 40, states there is no creature more sinful than woman. She is poison, she is snake. Other texts say that women are living lies. The caste system explains the violence against women in India, but to understand the inordinately high number of rapes in India, one needs to dig deeper for answers. At this moment in its long, tumultuous history, India is seeing a renaissance of a narrowly defined, ultra-nationalist, militant Hindutva ideology. Modi is the poster child of this ideology. This ideology places a lot of emphasis on India's most beloved epics and historical stories. Sadly, at the heart of these ballad-like mythological stories lie lurid tales of sex that glorify rape. That's from her article. The great irony here is that though the author declares a need to dig deeper for answers, the article digs no deeper, but instead piles on more dirt via half-baked assumptions and misreading, especially the absolutely insane claim that lurid tales of sex are at the heart of Hinduism. After all, a few phrases cited in the article, these phrases literally ignore millions of other phrases which say the totally opposite. How is it that all Indians are influenced by a few words but not by hundreds of thousands of other words? Most weirdly, the article goes on and on about Hindu gods and scriptures, apparently because it is convinced that every Indian rapist is a Hindu. And even more weirdly, the article speaks about these lines as if they are facts that must be obeyed by every Hindu, or, that Hindu is going to face death or something. The conclusion is even stranger. The article ends by saying, hence, for the woman in India, the world needs to hold Modi responsible. Every 2 minutes, a woman is victimized in India. An international outcry can make change for the better. That's how the article ends. It is hard to understand why the world needs to hold one Hindu responsible who himself has not committed any sexual crime. Surely the world needs to hold every single Hindu responsible then, by this logic, apparently even if the rapist is not Hindu. It's a bit rich to claim that the entirety of India's millennia-old culture and the actions of 120 crore people are now the sole responsibility of one man elected 2 years ago. Perhaps it is hard for those with only a vague familiarity with democracy to truly understand the concept of an elected government. So let us make one thing clear. Modi is our elected Prime Minister for 5, maybe 10 years. He is not our divinely appointed God controlling our every action. And he is not the spokesperson for every Hindu. Another concept that may be hard for Shaan Khan to understand is that Hinduism is not a monolithic religion controlled by one book and one god. There are thousands of gods, a great many number of books, cults, factions and divisions, each one of whom has millions of followers. And that's just the Hindu religion. We have hundreds of millions of Muslims and many millions of Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists and Christians. There are also hundreds of different cultures and attitudes throughout the country. However, attitudes towards women are similar throughout the country, even across huge distances, cultures and religions. It is obvious, much like how it is across the globe, Indian men have a general misogynistic attitude towards women. Why Shaan Khan assumes Hinduism is the main cause of this is not explained beyond the cherry-picked phrases. The article is filled with these kinds of massive leaps of logic, and we are not the only ones to notice. Parth Parihar wrote in the Huffington Post, "The examples Khan cites are so esoteric, I must confess that I do not feel sufficiently familiar with them to be able to analyze them in a meaningful, intellectually honest way. It may not speak well for Khan's argument that a practicing Hindu male would not be familiar with, let alone conditioned by, the example she cites." This is perhaps the heart of the argument. The examples cited by Shaan Khan, claim to be the bedrock of Hindu philosophy and Indian thought, are so obscure it becomes more than obvious that those were highlighted by someone specifically looking for them. obviously, if you scan through any ancient text, including all holy books of all religions, you will find things that are sometimes revolting. It is ludicrous to claim that over 1 billion people are wholly influenced by every random sentence. Again, since the author seems to be unable to grasp this possibility, let me clarify. These books are holy but not sent from heaven, with every word unchangeable and an order that every single alphabet must be obeyed to the word, unchanging. It is common knowledge, at least to those who are willing to understand such things, that these books were written by people and are meant as guides. There is such a heavy tinge of Hindu phobia in this article that it is really difficult to ignore. Khan makes a great many comparisons to China as well, making the point that if China has fewer rapes than India, then surely they must be doing something right. Although the statistics in the article are not exactly solid, since there is no way to know the number of unreported crimes, and China anyway does not have a great history of transparency when it comes to government reports. So what are the solutions for this? Since Khan rather proudly declares that the main reason for this is Hinduism, should we all convert to Christianity or Buddhism, or will Indian women find equality in Islam? If it is China we must look at, shall we abandon our secular democracy, imperfect though it is, and choose totalitarian communism instead? Should we shift to Abrahamic theology and take our laws from another holy book instead? Khan's big solution, incidentally, is for the world, yes, the whole world, to hold Modi responsible and make him answer. But what more can Modi do? He cannot physically patrol every road in India. He can push for better policing and fund governmental programs to educate society. That's about it. Shall we hand our Prime Minister over to the International Criminal Court and have him jailed? Will that end rapes in India the next day? What about the next Prime Minister we elect? Yes, unlike many places in this democracy, we elect one PM after another. How many PMs must be punished before Indians stop raping? Once we start to logically walk down the road Shaan Khan points at, the whole argument falls apart as the farce it is. The entire article is little more than a misinformed attempt to place the author's own narrow bigoted bias in the forefront, with the rape of women as a convenient disguise. While we thank the Shah Khans of the world for their advice, in reality there is no one single main cause for rapes in India. It is a vortex of cultural, religious and social issues, each one of which must be addressed separately and through different strategies. If there was only one cause with one solution, the issue would have been solved decades ago. If only real life was as easy as declaring assumptions in an article.